Well, it's SGDQ season, and in about a little bit under 2 months now, the marathon will be starting right at the beginning of July. So I'd like to talk a little bit about my experiences with GDQs in general, and talk a bit about if you should go and how it feels to do a run for them, and kind of what you're thinking leading up to it, and some of the experiences I've had. So hopefully this can help you if you're on the fence about going, or if you're thinking about submitting eventually. Something to mention right off the bat that I don't think a lot of people know about if they're not really into the speedrunning community, if they just watch the GDQs, is there is this whole entire submission period where people will offer these games to the committee for GDQ, and about 90% of them, if I remember correctly, get rejected. So I will say, if you do end up wanting to submit games, you've been working at this game for a while, it's really easy to get your expectations up really high and be really excited for it. But I've had it happen before with specifically the first GDQ I ever did. I submit Super Hot, and I submit a few other games, and I was positive Super Hot was going to get in. I was already planning my couch. I was planning how I want to do commentary. I was like practicing all that. And then lo and behold, the night after submissions had dropped, I check and I see that Super Hot's not been accepted. And I realized that I'd gotten myself so amped up and expecting that it was going to get accepted, and there's no way it didn't, that it really brought me down, even though I got another game accepted. And I acted like really stupid about it because of that, even though like I was one of the rare 10% of runs that actually got in. So kind of look at the bright side of that. And even if you don't get something accepted, it is very fun to go to the event. Speaking of the actual event, something people notice a lot in Twitch chat, because Twitch chat is obviously the arbiter of everything, and the most important thing when you're watching GDQs is that, there'll be some runs where it's like, hey, there's nobody in the audience, that's kind of weird, aka all my runs, but that happens sometimes, and a lot of it's because people actually do eventually go to sleep. As much as people tweet about never sleeping, people do actually go to sleep. But the main reason why there's not a lot of people sometimes in the audience is that there's so much to do, and there's so many people just to hang out with. Like there's an arcade room or just an arcade area, depending on which marathon you go to, where there's just so many machines and different things to try out, DDR machine, all the different kinds of stuff you could imagine. If you're really big into that, you'll find lots of cool stuff. I'm not so much big into that, but I've hung out there before. It's kind of fun to just see everything, especially since I'm not really aware of most of it. There's also a party room of sorts where there's a lot of party games, a lot of TV setup, kind of tucked away from everything else to hang out and do stuff with, if you wish so. There's a PC room, which has just tons of PCs set out. You can just sit down on, log in on Steam, and just play something and hang out with people. Something I haven't personally tried, but I've always heard about and probably will give a go. This SGDQ, so there's usually an area set aside where people play board games at, and I've recently gotten into it, and it's a lot of fun. So it'd be cool to kind of talk with new people that way and just try out some new games there. So overall, there's just tons of stuff to do if you just want to hang out and do that. So a lot of the time you're not really watching runs. Watching runs is nice, like if you have nothing else to do and you just want to see something that you've not seen before. But for the most part, you're not going to really be in there. But really the thing I want to emphasize the most is that this is really just comes down to a meetup of just a ton of people that you don't get to talk to otherwise. You guys, these are people that you a lot of the time have never met before. They're just people you've talked with online, you've done lots of routing with and trying out games and watching their streams, and they're watching your streams. And it's this cool thing where it's like finally getting to meet them, that this thing that can only happen when you meet people on the internet. And it's a really good excuse. For most of the time, you really wouldn't be able to meet these people. It's just not financially viable. But, this brings a lot of people together, and it's cool we're doing this charity event, and it's cool we're raising millions of dollars. But I feel like if it was just like this cold, like empty bunker that I'm going into, doing a run and then leaving, that it wouldn't really, obviously it wouldn't be that fun, but like even if it was still for charity, it would just be this, it would be missing that heart of getting to meet people the first time, hang out, do stuff, and just, be there with them. It's completely different than just talking to them on voice chat. Just being personally there with people is really what ties the event together. And I think that's why, even though people have gripes about whatever the charity is or however the event's going, or people getting banned or blah, 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 lots of dumb speedrunning drama that I try to stay out of, it's like, we get to meet people, we get to hang out, and it's a cool excuse to do it. And in the end, I think that's why GDQ is going to live on for a while, just because it gives that sort of excuse for speedrunners and just people that are just casually into it to come together and hang out. So I do want to talk a little bit about my personal personal experience of being a runner and how it feels leading up to it, like the months leading up to, the weeks leading up to it. I've done 3 different games for GDQ at this point. I'll be doing a 4th one, SGDQ. Please watch. But my experience is, for the first one, I was incredibly stressed. I did lots and lots of practice, spent a lot of time in the practice room, and they have a little like on deck area to the side where it's like a little couch and you've got a screen and you can watch the run from there, and you're kind of on standby with your keyboard ready to go. And that's probably the most stressful time. It's like you're watching that and you're seeing the timer go down and get closer to the estimate, and you're realizing in like 5 or 10 minutes you're going to be standing up there. And when you start talking, because you've got these pretty large headphones and they cancel the audio, you hear your voice, like you talk and then you hear it on the speakers and you hear that feedback. It's like, holy crap, this is real. I'm like the only voice they're hearing right now, and it's on me to hold on, like, and have the show keep going for like the next 10-20 minutes, for, in my case, for the short runs that I do. Even then, it's incredibly stressful. So my first run, I think I went into autopilot a lot. Like, I can't recall anything that happened except that Soul Closet made a donation, and that like really stuck in my brain. But other than that, I can't really recall a lot of what happened. But it's one of these things where you really get used to it after the first time. And then the second time when I did Super Hot, I felt really comfortable with it. I had it planned out with my couch, how I wanted things to go. I felt pretty happy with it. And for Lovely Planet, the race we did, I felt incredibly relaxed, mostly because I wasn't doing commentary, obviously. That's like a whole entire another part of it. I think a lot of people that watch are like really impressed. Like, how are they doing commentary and also running? And it's actually a lot easier than you think. It's actually a nice distraction sometimes. I mean, sometimes you need serious time, but a lot of the times it's nice for you to autopilot and muscle memory and then just talk to keep your brain off of messing yourself up. In general, it's just one of these weird things where it's like leading up to it, you're super stressed. Like, why do I do this to myself? It's so exhausting emotionally and energy wise. Why am I doing this run? And then afterwards you get done with it and you're like, I want to do this again. I want to do this 1,000 times. This is so much fun. So it's like you get this really big emotional high afterwards. And I think that's most of the reason why I keep submitting runs and doing all this stuff, even though like leading up to like, oh, this is going to be my last run, blah, 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 blah. It's never going to be my last run. In general, my advice is going to be, so the main question of this entire thing is, should I go to a GDQ event? I'll say if you're a runner and you know people and you've got people you want to meet, 100% you're going to want to go. If you're more on the shy side, you don't know so many people and you're going to be staying there an entire week and you might not know your roommates, you might not know these and that people, it can be a very emotionally exhausting experience. It can be a very unsatisfying experience. It's not going to be perfect. People aren't just going to come up to you and take you under. You have to kind of put yourself out there a little bit. And that's something I struggled with, especially for my first GDQ. I felt super uncomfortable at points because it was just like I had nothing to do. So I was just like straying a whole bunch. And I think that's like, when you ask people that are really big in the community, like, what their experiences are and kind of like, should you go? They'll be like, oh yeah, there's so many people to talk to, blah, 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 blah. So for a more realistic mindset, from someone that's not like got tons and tons of people they know from every community, it's cool. It's a lot of fun to go. There's a lot of people I want to meet. But I wouldn't say it's like mandatory to go, especially if you find that you're a little bit more socially awkward. But if you have people that are willing to kind of lead you around and kind of introduce you to people, it can be really fun. You can definitely meet up with a lot of interesting people and have a lot of fun. Now, GDQ to this point is a completely US based marathon, which can suck for people that have to fly across from Europe. But have no fear, ESA is a marathon that exists. We actually did a 4-hour video about the first round of cuts they had. So if you're interested in checking that out, I'll have that in the description with pretty much everything else I've mentioned at all, including all the GDQ runs I've done. But anyways, ESA is another speedrunning charity marathon that goes for a week. So if you are interested in doing something and do not want to spend thousands of dollars flying and hotel and reservation, all this stuff, that might be a good alternative to look into. GDQs and ESAs can be a little intimidating though if they are your first marathon experience. So I would suggest trying out some online marathons before you do that. They're a lot cozier usually. You got to do it from your own home, so there's not really that intimidation factor that I mentioned before. And you still got to see a lot of cool games and see how people do commentary and just see new runners and meet new people. It's really fun. The one that comes to mind first is Shots Fired, which is completely based on shooter games, but is very cozy and laid back because there's no donations, there's no incentives, so there's nobody really mentioning that sort of stuff. It's just watching it and hanging out with people, and it's got a very good community around it. So I definitely recommend that a few of any games that can even very loosely be qualified as a shooter. You also have Scrubathon, which is like a pre-GDQ commentary practice, fun, chill sort of marathon. That's also a good idea if you're looking for something. You have California Fire Relief, which is really cool because the creator of the marathon is very passionate about the cause of donating to help prevent forest fires in California and help fight them, since it is something that happens a lot and a very scary and dangerous situation to be in if you're in that area. So definitely want to check that out if you can. There's also JRTA, which is a marathon to help Japanese speedrunners get to GDQs, which is really awesome. It's obviously incredibly expensive, so having people band together and help them out, it might seem weird to have a marathon to help them get to a marathon, but it's for a good cause and it's really awesome. And I've done stuff with them in the past and would definitely recommend you trying to help them out as well. But I think I'll wrap it up there before I ramble on about every single online marathon I've ever done. But hopefully this was a nice insight for people that have never been to GDQs before, or are considering it, or just started speedrunning and are looking into it. Hopefully it's given you a decent enough idea. I definitely haven't gone over everything since there's so much to talk about. It is a whole entire week-long event and there's a lot of different viewpoints about it. I'd like to make more short-form sort of content like this and possibly have other people on and give their experiences, like I said, different viewpoints. But for now, if you did enjoy this, feel free to comment about other things that you're curious about the GDQs. If you've been to GDQs before, giving your own experience in the comments would be pretty cool. And just in general, kind of what you think about it, even from just a viewer perspective. And of course, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.